everyone, and welcome to another conversation. This is the Founders Chat, the future of fashion. I'm Althea Blackford, and we have another great conversation with another fashion week. So this one is going to be coming out from Indiana Fashion Week, and my special guest that I have here with me today is Michael Weston. He is the interim president for Indiana Fashion Foundation. Welcome, Michael.
Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you. So, all right, let's chat. So, Fashion Week, what's going on? And can you tell me a little bit about yourself and your particular Fashion Week, Indiana Fashion Week?
As Althea said, my name is Michael Weston. I had the privilege of working with a lady by the name of Denisha Ferguson to establish Indiana Fashion Week and the Indiana Fashion Foundation. Um, our goals and our mission, if you will, is to cause Indiana to be quote unquote on the map in terms of fashion, but also to help fashion to be a major contributor to the economy in the state of Indiana. Um, we did some research and we discovered that about that apparel uh, accounts for about 2% of the economy right now in Indiana, and so we thought that it would be much better if we were able to pull these different creators and creatives together and to have them, establish their businesses, help them, to display and exhibit their work so that they're able to contribute to the creative economy of Indiana. So that's really what the Indiana Fashion Foundation and Indiana Fashion Week is meant to do, is create community for economic development.
Nice, wonderful. And how long have you guys been around?
We had our first actually Fashion Week last year in 2019,
Wow.
and she had been doing events years prior, and she had been really having this idea and this vision to do Indiana Fashion Week, but she needed some things to fall in place, and so we in October of 2018 we had a meeting. We had our initial meeting, and between October of 2018 and June of 2019, we were able to pull it together. It began with just us two, and we ended up having over 100 some odd volunteers, 800 some odd attendees, and so
Wow.
it was really, I mean, it was really awesome. And of course, with this year going the way that we weren't able to have an actual fashion week, but it's been exciting.
Nice. So you guys are really young in the scene. This is amazing.
Very young.
So with that, you really have a story to tell, because you went from we're here, we made it, to yeah, okay, 2020. So how are you guys doing now with 2020? What's going on?
Yeah, I think just for anyone doing anything, this has been a great year of pivot. It's been a great year of change, and so we have really, figured out. Okay, we weren't able to do Fashion Week traditionally. What we did do is we did a virtual conference. During Indiana Fashion Week, we hosted a conference called "Making It in Fashion," and we did do that virtually. But also in trying to do that and then trying to navigate this whole time, it's just been a bit difficult, trying to continue try to figure out what do you do in terms of keeping the community involved. What do you do in terms of keeping the foundation running? And so it's been a year of pivot. However, what I'm excited about is that it's giving us a chance to kind of regroup. Once we started planning for Indiana Fashion Week, everything went so fast. Everything just, I mean, we were inundated. People, can we do interviews? Can we? It was just a lot, and I think sometimes people lose sight of their original goal. And so, over the last couple of months, actually, the founder Delang and I have been having conversations and have really been working to establish the foundation more, so that we're able to do more in-depth work with the people in Indiana, the fashion creatives, fashion professionals in Indiana. So I really, even though this year we've had some unfortunate events and some unfortunate things going on, the joy in it is that it's given us an opportunity to refocus and really get to the meat of what it is that we're looking to do in the foundation.
So can you tell me a little bit more about your foundation?
So the Indiana Fashion Foundation is um, designed, as I stated earlier, is not designed specifically to aid people in Indiana who are working in fashion to contribute to the economy. We do this by focusing on youth. We say that we're securing the future of fashion. We're working with youth, so that we're developing an internship program, a summer internship program for college students. We also, of course, we have the Making It in Fashion conference that I spoke of, and that's a educational track, and we do talks outside of that during the year. And then also we're working on developing a new program, that a membership program that we will be rolling out at the beginning of next year, that allows those who are fashion enthusiasts, fashion professionals, all that, to be a part of the foundation. And so we're working, or aggressively working on some programming that will allow these individuals who want to be in fashion to create the context for it and to create the ecosystem for it in Indiana.
Gotcha. Wonderful. So now with all this going on and the landscape of fashion, what's your take of how you see the future of fashion? Like what do you see is happening now, and how does it look like it's going to shape towards the future?
It's been interesting just to watch. I think even the fashion industry at large is a bit, taken aback, trying to figure out exactly what it is that's going to happen. I'll just say on an individual level, for all fashion professionals, specifically designers, there without designers, there's no fashion industry. So, centering around that specifically with designers, um, I say that we focus less on the exhibition part of it, and making sure that we have solid businesses, and I'm saying we, as if I'm a designer, but I'm saying making sure you have a solid business and making sure that you're able to sell to your consumer. I think in general, I've been saying this, outside of what I do with the foundation with Fashion Week. I'm what you call an identity strategist, previously working as a brand strategist, but had the opportunity to work with fashion designers in that track of business of work. And it's been interesting because a lot of people have like great ideas, great designs. They have, all these different concepts that they want to come up with. I want to do the show. I want to do this art exhibit. I want to do, and it's all great and it's all necessary. It's all part of it. However, if you don't have a solid business, if you don't have, if you don't know your price point, if you don't have a clear system of production, you don't have a clear system for sourcing, those kinds of things are very important. And I think if you don't have that, especially in a time like now and then moving forward when it's unprecedented, we don't necessarily know what's going to happen. I think it is a disservice to you to focus on that. I think that doing shows is great, doing the artistic piece, but I would say that in this time, any fashion professional, but especially designers, making sure that you're, number one, developing products that your consumers want, knowing your customer, and then also spending time really building a business so that when things like this show up, and hopefully we'll never have to deal with anything to this magnitude, but when unexpected circumstances rise, you're able to move and continue to have a business. And I had a client recently say, you know what, I'm not going to try to do the wholesale route. And I think a lot of people have dreams of being in Bergdorf's or have dreams of being in, I don't know, Saks. And, it's a goal, but also we have to look at the face of retail. Retail is changing in themselves, and a lot of people are doing direct to consumer now. So I think now is a great opportunity because everyone's online. I think it's a great opportunity for designers and people just in general to do that track of work online and to connect with people all over the world, opposed to trying to get in stores, all that stuff. So I said all that to say I think most importantly right now that everyone needs to focus on building businesses.
Right. So being a fashion week like myself, and this whole scene and everything, it makes you wonder, is there a need for the traditional fashion weeks, or do we still need to do that, or should we just revamp the whole concept? Like being on the producer end of it, it makes you start to think like moving forward in the future, especially how do you produce an event when you have a whole lot of criteria just to make sure everyone is safe across the board. Do we want this headache? Is there a better way about going about this? So moving forward, do you think there's a need for the traditional fashion weeks or fashion shows and fashion weeks?
I would say yes, in the sense that, I personally love being able to go to, I mean, just think about a performance, right? Going to a concert hall and to see this performance. There's such an experiential thing that's a part of that. And I think that designers who are still doing shows, especially those who are doing those like major shows, and like, I think they understand the element of experience. One of the things that I say a lot, especially in fashion, is that people are not buying products anymore. People are buying into cultures, they're buying into experiences. And so when they're doing, when that, when you're doing shows and stuff, you're actually helping people to have an experience. I mean, even New York Fashion Week has kind of pivoted in terms of they used to be so very exclusive, but now you can buy ticket packages for certain shows, and so they're building up on that experiential thing. So in that sense, yes, I think they're necessary, and I think they'll always have a place. However, I do believe too that there is a need to evolve it, because I mean, just on average, New York Fashion Week show, like official shows, it's like $100,000 to do. And I think as a producer of a fashion week, how costly that can be.
Mm-hmm.
For what, and for what. And so for me, I think focusing more on the market aspect. I think focusing more on, again, focusing our resources on education, allowing people, and that's one of the things that we try to do with Indiana Fashion Week. We did our conference, and actually this year we were going to do a live event. We were going to do the conference for 2 days opposed to one, because we wanted to beef that part up and kind of minimize the show aspect, because I know people get excited about the shows, and I love the community. I love the experience. However, what people walked away with from the conference was much more invaluable to them in the long run. So yes, I think that shows have their place in the traditional thing, but also we need to make sure that we're utilizing people's time and people's resources in the best way, and our own resources in the best way possible, to educate them to exist outside of and beyond the show experience.
And it's rather interesting that you're saying that you're actually trying to do a conference portion for your fashion week, because that was what was, in a live sense, what we were planning to do, or where we were introducing, because it was like, well, we've done it before with working with teens, and it worked well, and it was a good thing. So we're like, you know what, but I've never been able to switch it over to the adults, because it was always like fashion shows and this and that and next time. It's like, but when you have the conversations outside of our fashion week and you talk to designers, it's like the struggle about this element and that element. So I'm like, I'm hearing it, but I'm like, there's got to be a way that I can do this. So I was just like, all right, for this year's plan, we will still have fashion elements of like show elements and stuff like that. But I wanted to do like just a mini 1-day conference, or just like workshops, just to introduce people in of like just learning about things as well, because you can, with a fashion week, as a producer, you can do whatever you want, because that's
Right.
the joy of it. So I was like, we're just going to slowly introduce this in. Well, guess what? 2020 had another plan in mind. So it was just like, well, we could do this for a full week. So our full week has turned into, well, we'll just make this into the business of fashion of conference, of just like really learning the things and just giving some tools that you hear fashion designers and other fashion professionals are struggling with. So I'm just like, what better way to pull people together and be like, hey, can you talk about this right quick? Because this is what I'm hearing, like the struggle. So I'm just like, well, now I have the opportunity to virtually just present this all to you. And here we are with the fashion week. So it's amazing that you guys were like on the same level of like, let's beef this up for now, like 2 days worth of this.
Yes.
So it was in the air of like the education of like just teaching folks, like getting like the knowledge out there, because yes, it's easy to do the fashion show, but you must understand that that's a marketing tool.
As a marketing
Fashion show,
yes.
fashion show is just that. So after that's all said and done, what else do you got? You just can't just bank
Yes.
on that. So,
And I wanted to mention too that a part of Indiana Fashion Week, another thing that we did the Youth Designer Challenge. And so we had 8 youth. They Goodwill of Greater Indianapolis. They donated their space, number one, but they also donated $20 gift cards for each of the designers. So they went and did a shopping spree. So we're teaching them about budgeting and sourcing and doing all that at Goodwill. We're upcycling and doing all those things. But then they spend the next day with a mentor from the American Sewing Guild. They spent the whole day, I think about 8 hours, creating their pieces to show at the show. But they had the whole experience, from sourcing, from budgeting, to designing, to actual construction, and then the presentation. So I think that the way we're doing that even is helping to frame them in their minds to say, this is not just about putting on clothes and then showing up at a show, but this is really about you, and you really developing your craft, you putting things in a space that they're marketable. And it was amazing to see what those young people did. I mean, for me, it was so funny. I said, you know, these kids get my nerves because I'm crying the entire time they're going down the runway, but I watch them, you know, and so for me, if we're going to talk about the future of fashion, we can't leave out the youth. And so that's a huge deal. And, you know, for me, had I known that fashion was a track that you can go on and something you can do as a career, I would probably consider it way earlier. You know, it's only been in the last several years that I even got into fashion and all this stuff. But I think early on, them being able to see that and getting that education bit will help them, you know, move further along. Because I think one of the barriers for a lot of people is they got in fashion late, or people who are designers specifically, they go and they get all this design training, but rarely do you meet a designer who has a great business acumen, unfortunately. And that's why a lot of the designers that we see, the big designers that we see, they had business partners. Why? Because they weren't good on that as much as they were the creative. And so I think when you're somebody who is a designer, your one man show, so to speak, I think is important that you educate yourself. And I think what you all are doing and are planning on doing in terms of doing the conference and the education and even doing this platform is really invaluable and necessary, because there is a knowledge gap there. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So, and you actually touched on it, that leads to my next question beautifully. So we've been talking about, yes, you're beautiful and amazing at your craft, but you lack the business skills. So, and the business skills has been the common theme throughout this whole entire time. As we're wrapping up here, what should designers be focusing on within the business? Like what's one, because there's like a whole umbrella of things that you really need to focus on, but like, as they're moving forward in this whole situation, and it's like, what should you start to focus on as like step one and get this locked in, and then it will start to play out a little bit better before you even say, all right, now I want to do a fashion show. Yes. Like, slow down. Yes. Let's start with this. What is this?
Well, let me say this. First of all, let's make sure that we have quality product. I know people who have a lot of great ideas, but their execution is just not. Ooh. And I've said, one of the designers I work with, she studied in Paris at the Chambre Syndical, you know. So she studied there. I've watched her pattern make. I watched her do gradation. I've watched her do all these different things. And I'm like, wow, the skill set that's required for a designer. And there's a lot of people who are designers now who aren't necessarily, they're more in a creative director role where they're not actually doing the work. But I think it's invaluable for a designer to be able to do all of it. Not necessarily to do all of it, but to be able to do all of it. Why? Because we're in the house right now during the pandemic. You can't go to a factory the way that you could. As a matter of fact, many of the factories in New York were shut down permanently, during this time. So you can't do that. And so I think being able to create quality products yourself is huge. And if I could add to that, I would always say to know your customer. Know your customer. Everything that you like may not be good for market. And it's been a difficult conversation to have with designers who they're so married to their work and it's so exciting for them. But if you know your consumer, if you know your customer, if you know what they want, if you know what they're looking for, you're able to, you're really able to connect with them through your design and sell. And I just think having those basic skills are ginormous, really, in terms of having a business and having a sustainable business. And then, of course, there's other areas in terms of commerce and e-commerce and all that. But just in terms of basic, I say make sure you're able to do the actual execution of your product and to create quality product. And secondly, to know your customer so that you can design for them.
Right. That is wonderful, Michael. This has been an amazing conversation. Where can folks learn more about Indiana Fashion Week?
You can find us on Instagram at IndianaFashionWeek.com. At Indiana Fashion Week. Sorry. Okay. You can visit our website at IndianaFashionWeek.com.
Okay, wonderful. So this is amazing. Thank you so much, Michael. I wish you guys all the best as you're now the new rookies on the block coming into the Fashion Week scene and everything. So, and I know it's a lot more challenges and along the way, but it's always satisfying when you see the end product. So I wish you guys all the best in everything that you guys are doing. And thank you so much once again.
Thank you.